Hi everybody, I'm Jim Shore. Today we're at my studio and we're going to do a little special thing today. I want to introduce my daughter Robin, and Robin also works here as one of my assistants, and what we're going to do is we're going to do sort of a question and answer thing, and she'll explain who it's from, and we'll get started.
Okay, we have some questions from the Lost in Disney Magic group. Lots of questions about Disney pieces that anybody that's a Disney fan I'm sure will enjoy. Let's see, our first...
This group actually is from the UK.
Yes.
And so we have a lot of friends over there in the UK, and we appreciate you very much. But I think everybody will be interested in the questions and the answers.
Okay, here's a good question. How do you pick which films and characters to do? And that's from Emma Johnson.
Okay, well thank you for that, Emma. Actually, we have a process whereby we get everyone together that's involved in my organization, and it includes salespeople, it includes marketing people, it includes representatives of well, folks like all of you, the people that are the collectors, and together we sort of throw ideas into the hat, things that we want to see as a line extension, new items, new ideas, and that sort of thing. And we eventually distill that down to a grouping that is number-wise something that we can actually achieve, and then at the same time we make preparations for retiring some of the pieces that these will take their place. But that includes, all of the Disney characters, the new movies that they come out with, and even some of the really old movies. We always adding to the stories about the princesses and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a joint effort with everybody, including the input from the consumers, the retailers, and then all of us here in the studio. So it's a collaborative thing. I think we generally come up with a line that sort of is spread pretty evenly across the board, so that we eventually get all the characters represented in one way or another. Thank you, Emma, for that question.
Okay, here's another question that I think we get a lot from Natalie Watson. What has been the most challenging piece to design and make?
Natalie, that's kind of one of those questions sort of hard to answer, because I approach the design of these characters in different ways depending on what I want the character itself to evoke. And sometimes the approach is fairly simplistic, and sometimes the design approach that I take is very complex and with a lot of motion and a lot of emotion even. And so any of the pieces that I do, whether it be the iconic pieces, the Mickey, the Minnie, the Donald, and so forth, or the some of the characters like the Beauty and the Beast, or the ones that have more detail to them. Whatever the character, the approach as far as the complexity of it, the challenge of it, and so forth, it varies. But what I try to do in each piece is to be very faithful to the character, and first and foremost, so that when a person looks at the piece initially, they won't initially just say, oh, that's a Jim Shore piece. I want them to say, oh, that's Belle and Beauty and the Beast and Beauty and the Beast, or that's the Merida, and Brave, or that's Mickey, or whatever, and then they can look at it and they can say, okay, oh yeah, that's Jim Shore's approach, because I see Jim Shore's design style and that sort of thing. So that's basically where the challenge is. It's not a matter of any particular piece being difficult to execute. It's the complexity with which I approach the piece. So and of course the challenge is always to come up with something that'll be pleasing to you all as a collector, and that's first and foremost on my mind. But thank you, Natalie, for that question.
Okay, let's see. Hannah Metcalf says, what is your favorite set of characters and/or film?
Well, I'll tell you that once again, it's a difficult question to answer, because I'm a Disney fan too. And Disney, one of the good things about Disney is that it does spread itself over the years through so many different characters, so many different stories, and some of the stories are fairy tales and some of them are things that Disney themselves produced or created. And all of them are so interesting and so well done by Disney. And it's kind of hard to pick a favorite, really, because now I have favorite characters. I love Merida from Brave. I think she's a wonderful representation of how women and girls should think of themselves as being, strong and independent. And I also love Tinkerbell, largely for the same reasons. I like that, that attitude that she has. But once I'm into a project, whether it be Sleeping Beauty or Lilo and Stitch or whatever, I really put myself into the project, and that sort of at that particular time becomes my favorite. So while I've done virtually all the characters in one form or another, I'm satisfied with my approach to it, and I hope you are too. But I try to do this because I know that while I have some favorites, you have favorites too. And when I'm doing your favorite, I want to do the best job I can, basically for you and y'all in mind.
Okay, here's a good one. Would you consider doing a Madame Medusa figurine with Nero?
Yeah, that's that once again. See, I create such a volume of work, but basically every year. And I bring so many new pieces on, and then we go through the retirement and through attrition and so forth to replace them so that we keep a manageable line. But I try to plan on hitting all the characters at one time or another. And the way I do that generally is I'll take a piece like that that's one of the foremost pieces of that particular story, and I'll showcase that piece, and then maybe another couple of items or pieces or scenes or something that go along with that as an introduction of that piece. Now I haven't done that yet on that particular thing, but it's in the works, and that will be represented at some time in the fairly near future. That's a good story, and it's got some very interesting characters, and that'll be a lot of fun to do.
Okay. Would you ever do a figurine of Disneyland Paris Castle?
Yeah, I will, undoubtedly. Paris is one of our favorite places to visit. It's just one of the most outstandingly beautiful cities in the world. We've traveled there many times. We've always enjoyed it. We've always enjoyed the fact that we've been so warmly received by the French people and the people in Paris in particular. So we love to go, and I'm so delighted that Disney has its presence made there. And I've done the castles of the other locations, or most of the other locations, I'd say that. Disneyland, of course, and Disney World. And it's such an iconic...
We need a family trip to Paris.
Yeah, there you go. Oftentimes when I have a signing or something at the parks, we'll take the whole family. It becomes a family thing, of course. And but I've done the one in Florida and the one in the one in California, the original one. And so it's become such an iconic symbol of Disney. I'll certainly do it, and I'll undoubtedly have to go and do some personal research right there on the premises.
Yes.
And I'll take the family with me. So yeah, you can expect that pretty soon too.
Okay. Have you ever thought of opening a store which would sell every figure in the UK?
Okay, well, it's funny you should ask, because we haven't really thought in terms of what they call a bricks and mortar store, where you actually go in and see the pieces. That we'll leave that up to our the gift shops and our partners in that regard. But we have started a website specifically for the targeted consumer group in the UK and in Europe at large, and it is jimshoredesigns.co.uk. and it'll have, it has it presently, and we're just getting it sort of kicked off, and it has presently a pretty good representation of what we have. But that'll grow pretty quickly. We're really working on that, and we want that to be something that for all of you collectors that are in the UK or in Europe, our European friends, will not have to search and search and search, or have to rely on shipping it over here from the States or what have you. We want the thing to be readily available to you over there, so that's what we've done. So the answer to your question, I guess, would be a resounding yes, we have. And you can go to that site right now, and while I say it's in its sort of beginning stages, it will grow, and I want you to grow with it. So check it out. I think you'll like it.
Okay. Would you ever consider live-action Disney film pieces?
Yeah, in fact, we're looking right now at developing some pieces for the upcoming film of Mary Poppins, and that'll be a live-action film. And there's some others, in the past that Disney has done, even back to the Shaggy Dog and Flubber, and so that era when they were doing so many of those type of movies. We'd certainly consider that. But I'm looking very strongly about developing the Mary Poppins piece. Of course, we love that story, and with the movie coming out pretty soon, I think this is good timing. So
That'll be a great one.
Yeah.
Okay. Will you do any pieces from Song of the South?
We're Southerners. The studio here is in South Carolina, in the States, and as if you all are familiar with the United States, it's considered a southern state. So that those characters and that sort of thing has been something that we kind of grow up around, and it is a wonderful story, and it's got some very interesting characters, Brer Bear and Brer Rabbit, and so forth, and the situations and the shenanigans they get into are quite entertaining, and some of those characters actually are represented at the parks. So yeah, it's a great story. So I'd definitely consider that. I'll put that on the list. Put it that way.
Okay, our last one. From the initial sketch to the retail release, how long roughly does it take your pieces to be completed?
It's a process, and who's that from?
That is from Remy Bruno in London, UK.
Well, thank you, Remy. That's a great question. A lot of people ask that question because they say, oh, will you do such and such, or will you do this and that, and they expect to see it, next month.
Yeah.
And it's more of a lengthy process. It starts out, of course, with the design work, and then it goes into a product development phase with the incumbent approval processes, and it's back and forth to make sure that the sculpturing is just right and that all the elements are there, and it actually reflects the whatever the emotion or the passion or whatever, whether it's humor or whimsy or seriousness or what have you. The intent of the original design has to be there, and we have to make sure that everything's tweaked and polished and everything exactly the way we want it. And then it goes into a sort of a pre-production phase where we prepare for our trade shows. And so the design work is all sort of predicated around presenting the pieces at our trade shows. And the trade shows generally run about a year ahead of the season that they're actually representing. For example, the Christmas shows in January. And that gives you an idea, and so it takes about a half a year to get it to the show, and it takes about a year or so to go from the show to getting it actually on the shelf in that season. So I would say roughly, give or take a year and a half or so from the time the design work has begun until you can see it on the show. But it's a great question. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people will be interested in that answer.
That's all of them.
Okay, does that wrap it up?
That wraps it up.
Thank you very much, Robin. You've done a wonderful job.
Anytime.
I have to get you on camera more often. and thank you all. Look forward to seeing more of you. Bye-bye now.